Okay, this video is gonna be on an article that was published in the journal called News by William Alston, and it's published in this anthology, which is by Louis Poyman. That's the philosophy of religion, and I've had this one for a while. They have a new edition out, but it has a lot of it has a lot of really good articles and topics in the philosophy of religion. And so you can see I've kind of used it a lot, kind of beat it up pretty good over my years of use of it. But this article is called Religious Experience and Religious Belief. I have a video called The Intro to Religious Epistemology, and I also have a video which is on Alvin Plantinga's article called Religious Belief Without Evidence. So basically what this kind of philosophy of religion is it's epistemology having to do with beliefs, of course, because that's what epistemology is, but it's about a certain kind of belief, which is basically religious beliefs. Like, God imparting grace on you, or God talking to you, because people who are atheists and don't really believe in a God are going to say that is psychotic, or it's crazy, or something like that. When Plantinga, which I have talked about in a different video, as well as Alston, make a case for those kind of beliefs of God, because that are based on religious experience. Alston is basically going to make the point that people who have religious beliefs, people who have religious experience, which leads them to having religious beliefs, are not entirely. They are not violating any epistemic duty. They are not violating anything really, and their beliefs are, in a sense, justified because of that. And he's going to go into this and talk about certain epistemic practices and different kinds of justification and such. First of all, he says, experience will directly justify belief when the justification does not go through other beliefs in this way. Thus, if I am justified just by virtue of having the visual experiences I'm not having, and taking what I'm experiencing to be a typewriter situated directly in front of me, then the belief that there is a typewriter directly in front of me is directly justified by that experience. So, the question here is, can religious experience provide grounds for religious beliefs? So can a religious experience justify religious belief? Many epistemologists, many atheists in general, would say no. Alvin Plantinga says yes, it can, and Alston comes to the conclusion that yes, it can. Again, I'm not going to really go into every single part of this article, just the points that I find to be important, and the parts that are important to the one who taught me to it as well. So we have two kinds of justification. First off, we have direct and indirect, which are justification of religious belief by religious experience. A direct justification of religious belief by religious experience is the immediate experience of a God. Similar to the way that Moses in the Bible would see that, like the burning bush, going up to the mountain and such, and also very other figures in the Bible. So, direct religious belief is experiencing God Himself, and the experience of God Himself is direct justification of any religious belief. On indirect justification would be that of seeing things a different way. That's the way Alston words it. Seeing things in a different way, or thinking differently, or acting differently, and someone inferring that is the Holy Ghost imparting grace upon them, or God strengthening you, or God God helping you and such and such. Many religious people, including myself, have had direct and indirect justification for their beliefs, which is, most people wouldn't consider this justification at all, but for the sake of what Alston is saying, can religious experience provide direct justification for religious belief? Because Alston's going to focus on the direct justification for religious beliefs, and he calls these things beliefs, which is manifestation, which is God strengthening, helping, imparting grace to you. And what is very important in this article is the idea of an epistemic practice or habits of belief formation. He seems to be an internalist, because if you hear the contemporary debates in epistemology, there's externalism and there's internalism. Internalism kind of has they use words like reliable, like saying that, and I will get to the evaluative justification which he gives, but an internalist believes that your justification of a certain belief has to be known, and that you must know the way in which a certain belief is justified. And people like Alvin Goldman and others in contemporary epistemology from like the 70s or the 80s, who use terms like reliabilism and use words like reliable, because the process of belief formation is reliable. Externalism means that you don't have to have cognitive access to your justification for your beliefs, which has also its problems. Just as well, the one problem out of many with internalism is that you can't really always have or you can't really always have cognitive access to the justification of your beliefs for every single belief you have. And the epistemic practice, or the processes of belief formation, are also subject to justification as well as the beliefs are. And what is going to be given here is the CP and the PP, which is the Christian. The CP is the Christian epistemic practice, where the way in which you come towards your beliefs are different from the perceptual epistemic practice, and I will go into that here as well. And Alston does in a good way. And I personally think it's a really nice way of looking at it. So we talk about he talks about different kinds of justification. One being normative justification, where he writes the capital J subscript N, where on the one hand there is what we may call a normative concept of epistemic justification, capital J subscript N. Normative because it has to do with how we stand vis-a-vis norms that specify our intellectual obligations that attach to one qua cognizant subject, qua truth seeker. To say the most generally, J subscript N consists in one's not having violated one's intellectual obligations. We have to say not violated rather than having fulfilled, because in all normative spheres, being justified is a negative status. Not violating intellectual obligations is similar to the concept of epistemic duty, and that is something that epistemologist named Lawrence Bonger brings up in some of his writings. So, a norm the Christian epistemic practice is one norm, the perceptual practice is another. A norm as to how you as to how you form your beliefs. A normative concept, because it has to do with how we stand vis-a-vis norms that specify our intellectual obligations. On intellectual obligation being that we don't accept a belief into what Plantinga calls our noetic structure that violates one of the others or violates the rest of things within that. Well, in this case, within that one belief that is adopted doesn't violate the intellectual obligations of that norm. Okay. J subscript E, which is justification, which is evaluative, which is I'm just going to read it because it's better said this way. However, epistemologists also frequently use the term justified in such a way that it has to do not with how the subject stands vis-a-vis obligations, but rather the strength of her epistemic position in believing that P, with how likely it is that a belief of that sort is acquired or held in that way is true. To say that a practice is justified is, as I shall say, evaluative sense, is to say that beliefs acquired in accordance with that practice. So it's still within a epistemic practice, but it has to do with the strength or the soundness of that. And it's less whether you're violating certain things of your norm or not. And personally, I think that we tend to base how we justify our beliefs based upon certain norms rather than whether they are strong or sound or what. And the normative kind of justification is relative to a person's situation as well, and it has to do with the practice in general, but the person's intellectual obligation is just in general. Evaluative justification, our beliefs justified in accordance with practice, that are generally true. Experiential justification is only defeasible. Now, in this article, Alston uses the term called defeasibility and defeaters. Defeasibility, if a belief is defeasible, what that means is that it is prima facie justified in that it's all well and good and it's all well and justified, but it has the possibility of no longer being so, given new discovery of new information, Bible or any classic creed. And there's difference between there's different kinds of parts that vary, but still have the same general kind of practice. And this epistemic practice is something that is able to account for miracles and belief without evidence, the kind of things that an atheist will criticize a Christian for, believing without any tangible or sensible evidence. And then there's the other one, which is the perceptual practice, which is the practice of forming beliefs about the physical environment on the basis of sense experience. So the CP and the PP, which are they're just different practices. They're different epistemic practices in that they're practices and processes as to how one forms their beliefs and and the way in which one justifies their beliefs. And the way in which the beliefs are formed, the way of that being important is a certain internalist concern. That would be a less externalist concern, because they're not really concerned about the way in which you come to your belief, or they're not really concerned for the way in which a belief is justified. It just matters that it is justified. The perceptual practice has to do with the retention of beliefs in memory, and formed in the way that they are self-evident. Now we have two variations of the normative type of justification. One is capital J subscript N and S, which is the stronger version of normative justification, and then we have the weaker version of normative justification. Now, the task here is which kind of justification is going to go to which practice. The evaluated kind of justification would fit well with the perceptual practice, or the perceptual practice. Each of our practices as involving not only the formation of beliefs on the basis of experience, but also the retention of these beliefs. I already gave that. So it's either the stronger version of normative justification, which would be the matter of justification in the perceptual one, or the evaluative kind. And then it's just he does give a lot of discussion as to which kind of justification would go to which practice. See, he says let's take JN as an abbreviation for justified in the normative sense on the stronger requirement. And then he says now consider whether Mr. Everyman is J subscript NW, which is the weaker version, engaging in PP, which is the perceptual practice. It would seem so, except for those who like Parmenides and Bradley, the skeptics. I think no, that's different. So there's just like a lot of what I'm trying to say, that he gives a lot of discussion as to which one would go where. Which, if you get this, you can read that. I don't really want to go much into that. Okay. And then in the third part of this article, he gives 4 different features of the perceptual practice, which characterize it and characterize the practice as to how one moves towards forming and retaining beliefs. Number 1 is, within PP, there are standard ways of checking the accuracy of any particular perceptual belief. Number 2, by engaging in PP, we can discover regularities in the behavior of the object putatively observed, and on this basis we can, to a certain extent, effectively predict the course of events. Number 3, the capacity for PP and practice of it is found universally among normal adult human beings. Number 4, all normal adult human beings, whatever their culture, use basically the same conceptual scheme in objectivizing their sense experience. Those are the 4 things here that characterize this practice. and it doesn't account for miracles. It doesn't account for beliefs without some kind of sensory evidence. It is the way of coming to beliefs which are based upon sense experience only, and finding the regularities and all this stuff. Which there's these characteristics are matter of building beliefs that are about the world, which is seen by sense experience. And there's ways of checking the possibility of truth in this, or the reliability of a certain belief. So think about those things. This is within the perceptual practice only. The Christian epistemic practice doesn't really have any of that. There's no ways of checking accuracy in the Christian practice. There's no way of checking regularities in that practice. The lack of these features that the perceptual practice has in the Christian practice, or the lack of these features in any other practice, is what an atheist or any atheist scientist would call that not being able to have any of these four features in their epistemic practice is grounds for the untrustworthiness of the way of coming to beliefs. It's the grounds for pointing out the lack of reliability of the process of gaining beliefs. Alston kind of points this out to be not necessarily the case, because they're two different practices. They're two different ways of coming to beliefs. The reliability of the Christian practice is different from the physical environment. The perceptual practice, which is what the atheists and the atheist scientists use and form beliefs upon, is about the physical environment with its regularities and its ways of checking accuracy. The Christian epistemic practice is not about that. It's about something else, something more, I should say. And the reality of coming towards those beliefs in the Christian practice is just different. It's a different thing that we're talking about. And it's a different way also of coming to beliefs. The standard features that the perceptual practice has they should not set the standard for the features of any cognitive approach to God. Alston states that the features that the perceptual project has, they should not be the standard of trustworthiness for any approach that is beyond the realm of the physical environment. And God is not within the physical environment. So any approach to God is not subject to these rules that the perceptual project has. These standard features that these things have, that the perceptual practice has, they aren't the standard of trustworthiness. They aren't the standard of reliability in the Christian practice, because the Christian practice goes beyond the physical environment, and these features that the perceptual practice has only fit for this epistemic practice, and they don't fit for the Christian one, because the Christian one is forming beliefs about things that are beyond this. And you pick your practice based upon what you are trying to give cognitive approach to. And the cognitive approach to God is not subject to these things that the Perceptual Project has as their features. Mainly because these things don't account for anything like that. They don't account for anything as possible, anything other than the physical environment. The perceptual practice is in trying to understand God within this practice is going to pose difficulty anyways. But then there's a practice where it is possible to try to understand God because it doesn't have any kind of ways of checking for accuracy or regularity in it. Because it's immediately accounting for the lack of possibility of that. Awareness of God and understanding of His nature and His will for us is not a purely cognitive achievement. It requires the involvement of the whole person. It takes practical commitment and a practice of the likeness of the Spirit, as well as the exercise of cognitive faculties. The whole point of this whole thing is that when atheists, I'm not trying to say that they're wrong or anything, but I'm just saying what he's saying. When atheists try to criticize theists for believing in a certain God, they aren't really understanding that their epistemic practice on which they come to their beliefs is different from the epistemic practice of any Christian or of any theist. And I guess my personal opinion is that if the atheists have their own epistemic practice and the theists have their own perceptual practice, or that they have their own epistemic practice, then I mean, there's not really a useful way of the people in the perceptual practice trying to criticize people in the Christian practice. And I think he makes a really good point here that every epistemic practice has a stance on religious experiences, and the perceptual epistemic practice, which it has the process of it has a way in which you can be justified in your religious belief because of your religious experience. And I could probably just discuss this for a while, because I think that this means is that if we're going to criticize someone about their religion, or criticize someone about their criticize someone about their lack of religion, we should maybe try to criticize their epistemic practice instead. Criticize the way in which each other come up with their beliefs. Criticize the practice and not the beliefs themselves, because I don't think that Christians don't get the way atheists come up with their beliefs, and atheists don't understand the way that Christians come up with theirs. So criticizing each other's beliefs is kind of futile. If we're gonna criticize each other, we should be criticizing the practice itself. And that's just my adding on to this, because that's kind of what I think. This article, along with Plantinga's article, Religious Belief Without Evidence, I think means that we should be criticizing their practice, and I mean Plantinga has something different going on with his, but upon this, I think we should be criticizing the practice, and I think that the belief and the practice of coming towards that belief are two very, very different things. let me know what you think, and if you have like a question on this, or if you're a expert on religious epistemology or philosophy at all, then please comment, because I would like to hear what you have to say, or if I said something wrong. Tell me, because the reason I do these videos is not only to help others who want help on this, but also to learn from others as well. So please comment. I encourage you to do so.